You know, this is like the 80th time that I've tried to film this, and I am so done. I don't care if I make myself look like a total idiot this time. I'm publishing this. Okay, so, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Debatability. As you can tell by the title, this video is basically going to consist of me explaining the reasons why I think Blade Runner will make the best president for debate.org. I originally wasn't planning on making a video like this, but because of how close the election is at this point, it's been separated by maybe 4 or 5 votes for a really long time now. I feel that making this video is worthwhile, even if I only convinced one person to vote for Blade. But I'll get right into it. I've basically come up with 3 reasons as to why I am voting for Blade, and I'll list them one by one. So the first thing I want to talk about is how Blade has already proven himself as a quality president. The first way we can observe this is through his last campaign, in which he talked about how no debate would go unvoted. And he was able to, for the most part, achieve this, and we can see this because, firstly, during his presidency, less debates went unvoted than ever before. But we can also see that he was driven to achieve this goal because he voted on every single debate that he was PM'd to vote on by a member of debate.org. So, very few debates went unvoted, thus fulfilling his promise. The RFDs he casted on debates would often range from 20 to 25 parts, showing that not only was he voting on debates, but also leaving very quality RFDs and setting a good example for other members. But beyond the No Debate Unvoted campaign, we can also look to the Religion Forum Ambassadors program, which was clearly a net benefit to the site and incited pretty quality discussion on the religious forum in comparison to what we've seen before. And now in this campaign, he's planning on continuing more forum programs that facilitate more quality discussion on the forums. And since we've seen that he's able to achieve this through the Religion Forum Ambassadors program, I believe that he will be able to continue to achieve this on other forums. Lastly, we can look to the frequent updates that he provided at least twice a month, thus fulfilling transparency and letting the site know how the presidency was going, as well as leaving helpful tips. And he often joined Google Hangouts to connect with the members of DDO. Now, I've seen a couple of people voice concerns about how Blade has not immersed himself into the social aspect of DDO to the extent that McCall has, but I don't really think that this is a bad thing, because there's no doubt that Blade spends a pretty large amount of time on debate.org with the people of debate.org. I think it's also worth mentioning that Mike Howell and also On the Bench's social interaction on the site has led to quite a bit of flame wars, and I think that this should factor in to whether or not they should become president, because past flame wars makes McCall and I'm a Bench less apt to be able to positively interact with some members of the website, whereas Blade Runner has none of that baggage, and Blade Runner is able to get along with almost every member of debate.org. So my second reason for voting for Blade would be that since Blade and McCall mostly agree on the main issues and programs, and they have quite similar platforms if you compare them side by side, you have to take into account who is better equipped to implement things like site updates, forum programs, tournaments, and more. And the perfect example of this would be the trial system, because both candidates agree that it ought to be implemented, so you have to look to who's going to do a better job with implementing it. Blade is planning on implementing a member-approved trial system after discussing with various members on the website how a trial system ought to be formatted, whereas Mike Howell is going to be formulating a trial system with Blade. And this shows that Blade, or formulating a trial system with Bluesteel, sorry. So this shows that Blade is more apt to produce a less controversial version of the trial system, which is obviously a benefit because the trial system is already semi-controversial, thus producing a member-approved trial system, so to speak, would be more effective. Another thing I would mention is site updates. And site updates are probably one of the most appealing tenets to McCall's platform. And I feel like this is misleading since Juggle currently doesn't have a working relationship with DDO, and they're not willing to devote resources to DDO. So you have to look to who is more apt to get those site updates implemented, and that would be Blade, because Blade has already established a working relationship with Juggle. And so Blade has noted that once Juggle is able to devote resources to the site, he is going to be more able to get site updates implemented because of his pre-existing relationship with DDO and professional demeanor. So because Blade has such a relationship with Juggle, he is well informed on what to ask of them and what not to ask of them. McCall would have to completely start from scratch. My third reason is the issues they disagree upon really don't matter, because a lot of the issues McCall is supporting that Blade does not support are pretty unrealistic. I think the only two major disagreements they have would be changing the moderation policy and stickies, and I honestly don't think that stickies is a hugely controversial issue, and it's something that AirMax has been planning on changing anyway. But if we look at the moderation policy, which is something that McCall is talking about changing, after having a conversation with AirMax and also just doing a bit of research, it's very unlikely that McCall will actually be able to tweak the moderation policy. And it's also worth mentioning that advocating for the elimination of the terms of service banning minor personal attacks, but then supporting a program such as DDO Peacekeepers seems a bit contradictory, because one is advocating for allowing small arguments and then one is trying to eliminate them. But the issues that Blade and McCall disagree with are either not of consequence, or McCall is probably not going to be able to implement such changes. So those are basically the three reasons why I'm voting for Blade. Blade's already done a great job of being president. Blade is more fit to implement site updates, run tournaments, because he already has the experience and working relationship with Juggle, and he's going to be more member-friendly. And the disagreements that McCall and Blade have are either inconsequential or unrealistic on McCall's side of the platform. So with that, I'll wrap up my video. Also, Set wanted me to say that this video is approved by Set the Mighty, so there's that.